صباح الخير يا ولاد عمومنا تفضلوا شرفونا شو بتحب مضيفكم دم عربي ولا دموع من عيوننا بعتقد هيك تأملوا نستقبل من هيك تعقدوا لما تدركموا على غلطة من هيك لبسنا الكوفي البيضة والسودا صاروا كلاب الزمان يلبسوها كموضة مهما تفننوا فيها مهما غيروا بلونها كوفية عربية بتضل عربية.
And you are from?
I'm from Palestine by way of Brooklyn.
فلسطيني من مواليد صفد.
فلسطيني من عين الحلمي.
من قرية اسمها صعصع قضاء صفد.
من قرية الصفصاف بفلسطين قضاء مدينة صفد.
إنسان فلسطيني.
مضارب عرب الصقر حول مدينة لسان.
من قرية الظاهرية قضاء الحدود.
من سكان نهر البارد. نازح حاليا من منطقة الجداوي.
بالأصل من صفورية واسمي ناصر علي.
من قرية اسمها دمرة من قضاء غزة.
من دار السبع وأهلي في فلسطين وفي غزة.
اسمها يبنى في جانب زدود.
من يافا فلسطين.
من مدينة الليل.
خلاص أنا فلسطينية يا جماعة خلاص يعني.
Palestine, pre-1948, before the Nakba and the establishment of the State of Israel, was under the rule of the British Mandate and was, for the most part, a country of farmers, fishermen, lawyers, religious communities, and basically was an ordinary country with a fount of culture and knowledge. Its societies had a well-established hierarchy of class and a functional mode of livelihood that sustained life in a peaceful and prosperous existence. Then came 1948 and everything changed. The mass ethnic cleansing and razing of villages that ensued resulted in the expulsion of 750,000 Palestinians outside of the homeland they had known for generations. However, the erasure of Palestinians from Palestinian territory did not result in the erasure of, quote, Palestine. The systems and modes of life that had existed there for centuries before carried over in the dispersal of the Palestinian refugees, which led to a manifestation of the idea or image of Palestine in a conceptual sense in the daily lives and memories of those Palestinian communities. And so, the displaced Palestinian communities were always taking Palestine with them in the stories and memories they constantly repeated, remembered, and commemorated.
كل ما حدا احكي له انه انا من رمله بيجي بيحكي لي شد الحبل شد قربت رمله على اللد. فالقصه انه كان في جامع بين الرمله وبين اللد. طبعا اهل الرمله واهل اللد دائما بينكتوا على بعض وبيحكوا قصص على بعض. فانا بدي احكي الفيرجن تبعت اهل الرمله يعني على القصه. الجامع هاد كان بالنص ودائما اهل الرمله بيحكوا انه هذا الجامع إلنا واهل اللد بيحكوا انه هذا الجامع إلنا. فاجوا قرروا بيوم من الايام اهل اللد انهم يسحبوا الجامع لعندهم. فربطوا الجامع بحبال وبلشوا يشدوا الرجال كل رجال المدينه بلشوا يشدوا بالجامع. لما اجى وقت الظهر صارت الدنيا شوب وهيك فشلحوا الاواعي تبعتهم وحطوها على جنب. مرقت ناس من اهل الرمله شافوا الاواعي هيك فقالوا شو هدول عم بيعملوا هبقى عم بيسحبوا بالجامع وهيك. فاجوا مسكوا الاواعي تبعونهم وخبوهم. بعد شوي انتبه واحد من اهل اللد اللي عم بشدوا انه الاواعي مش موجوده ففكر انه الجامع تحرك. فصرخ بالناس الباقيين اللي حواليه بقول لهم شد شد قربت الرمله على اللد.
If Palestine then, to the diasporic community, consists of memories and stories of the way of life it represented before 1948 and before the Nakba, those memories could not escape the changing effects of time and the fragmentation of geographical dispersal. The once unified nation of Palestinians scattered, landing all across the globe, from Lebanon to Kuwait, from Egypt to Tunisia, from Europe to the US, Canada, and Australia. As a result, the various influences of their new surroundings colored the memories of Palestinian refugees and thus changed their understandings of what Palestine was and is. The rupture of the connection between people and homeland forced them to carry Palestine in their heads, where it inevitably dissolved into distinct pieces, such as the traumatic memories of the Nakba, and into vague impressions of the way of life it represented: peace, farming, fishing, and the enduring love of land. As a result, the growing generations of Palestinians born in exile, born to diaspora, have inherited a mythical Palestine, an imagined homeland that forever eludes fixity in an actual country, making the quest for a national identity a hopelessly deferred and unattainable aspiration.
I mean, I grew up knowing I was Palestinian despite the fact that I grew up here. I also, when I was younger, I felt the need to kind of downplay the fact that I was Palestinian because I understood that it was kind of a touchy issue, especially growing up in New York.
Yeah, I mean, the first person to call me a terrorist was my teacher. The first person to tell me my people didn't exist was my teacher. My 6th grade teacher, this is a famous story for me now, like made me go to a map to show where Palestine was, and of course it wasn't there. So, you know, my 11-year-old self comes home and is like telling my parents, where is this Palestine in your head? Where doesn't exist?
And we didn't grow up in an Arab community, so it was sort of like, are we the only ones? And later when we moved to Jordan, I realized, oh, okay, like this is like a whole country with, you know.
I don't need to be quiet like about it.
I'd say the meaning of Palestine for me is one that has grown out of my self-education. And in that respect, I would say that it is different than the one that my grandmothers and my grandfathers, for example, was directly linked to the life that they lived and that they were forced to leave and end up in horrible conditions in Lebanon. And for my father, it was an existential issue growing up in Lebanon where he was a disenfranchised person, not having proper papers, and having to seek a better life for himself through his own education. Whereas for me, I am in the privileged position where for me it is a question that I'm actually able to address through my work. And I'm incredibly privileged and lucky to be able to do that. But it also means that I have an incredible responsibility that I have taken on, or would like to take on, so.
In talking to Palestinians in the diaspora, one can see how memories became the inheritance of newer generations of Palestinian refugees and continue to act as substitutes for their unattainable national homeland. Keeping the memory of Palestine alive then became a way of identification for Palestinians in the diaspora. This is not to say, however, that these memories of Palestine remain static. In the same way that a history of a nation develops over time, thus developing its meaning on the conceptual level, the image or idea of Palestine has morphed past being the memories of the old stories, the orange trees, the olive groves, and ultimately the Nakba. Newer generations of Palestinians have incorporated their lived experiences in the diaspora into their understandings of what Palestine and what being Palestinian means. They do not relate as closely to the stories of the Nakba and its prior history, but rather identify with concepts of disenfranchisement, homelessness, lack of belonging, and the goals of activism, resistance, and achieving social justice. To those newer generations, remembrance is not merely a way to reconnect to a past life. Remembrance is resistance. It is a way to claim a voice and an identity that is growing and alive, and is not historically locked behind 1948.
When I started rapping in Arabic, it started off as a hobby. I wasn't uncomfortable with singing, like rapping in English or singing in English, but I felt like I really had to be honest and real with myself and original. I wanted to claim a voice. I wanted to claim an identity in terms of, you know, being a Palestinian in the diaspora.
نسيتوا عديتوا الايد اللي طعمتكم حملتكم لما كنتوا باضعف مرحله بحياتكم هيدي مستحيل بخدك يا وعدتك.
The result of these experiences and the fluidity of the memories of Palestine that in fact compose all its meaning due to its detachment from an actual homeland, is that Palestinian identity in the diaspora, and specifically within the newer generations, has achieved a great measure of plurality where its roots and wings are as equally important and valued in its national and racial frameworks. Palestinian identity is therefore strongly rooted in the land, in its history, and in its memories, yet it is also malleable and encompasses the pluralism enforced on it by the process of diaspora and displacement. It is therefore a highly complex identity that is capable of maintaining its authenticity whilst incorporating difference for survival, without diminishing from its original ties to the land and its right of return. Therefore, Palestinian youth in the diaspora managed to blend the essentialism of the Palestinian identity with the pluralism of its diaspora in unexpected ways that free Palestine, in the conceptual sense, from the occupation of its history, whilst also remembering and retaining all of that which makes life worth living.
You know, no Palestinian event would be complete without some Mahmoud Darwish poetry, in my opinion. And so if you indulge me, I'd like to begin with one of my favorite Mahmoud Darwish poems. He said, "We have on this land that which makes life worth living. We have on this land all of that which makes life worth living. April's hesitation, the aroma of bread at dawn, a woman's beseeching of men, the writings of Aeschylus, love's beginning, moss on a stone, mothers standing on a flute's thread, and the invader's fear of memories. We have on this land that which makes life worth living. September's end. A woman leaving 40 behind with all of her apricots. The hour of sunlight in prison. A cloud reflecting a swarm of creatures. A people's applause for those who face their own erasure with a smile. And the tyrant's fear of songs. We have on this land all of that which makes life worth living. On this land, the lady of our land, mother of all beginnings, mother of all ends. She was called Palestine. Her name later became my lady. Because you are my lady, I have all of that which makes life worth living. Rest in peace, Mahmoud Darwish.
صباح الخير يا ولاد عمومنا، تفضلوا شرفونا، شو بتحب مضيفكم دم عربي ولا الدموع من عيوننا؟ بعتقد هيك تأملوا نستقبل من هيك تعقدوا لما تدركموا على غلطتنا.